Everything is Fine by Great 78. Chapter 10. Jim. Hermione held out the short note that had arrived during the night. The words were written on the white page in stark, accusatory red ink. I know your name isn't Harlow Garamond, and I don't think you belong here. When he looked back up, Hermione's eyes were flooded with tears. Without warning, she launched herself into his chest, and Draco's breath escaped him, short-circuiting all of the brain pixies at once. Slowly, very slowly, his arms reached tentatively around her, giving her every chance to change her mind and back away from him once she came to her senses. His touch was ever so careful. He was afraid he might scare her off when his fingertips grazed her back. 2 nights ago was one thing. She'd been drunk, and not in her right mind. Now she was entirely sober.
"No one knows who I really am, except you and Ron. Who could have left this note?"
she wailed into his chest. "I don't know," he murmured. He grew more confident now that she had not fled at his halting embrace, and he found himself stroking her back gently. The hair that he'd longed to touch for years tickled the backs of his hands. His breath came into his lungs so shallowly he might not have been breathing at all. "We'll figure it out, though, all right?"
"Draco!"
She pulled back from him, sniffling, damp cheeks red with worry.
"What if whoever it is goes to Ariel? What if I'm kicked out of here? Will they send me to the bad place?"
He fought very strongly against the urge to lower his lips to her cheeks, to kiss her tears away. It was a battle he won, but only just. "I won't let that happen, Hermione. I promise. I'll keep you safe," he said, his arms tightening just slightly around her. He had no idea where the words or the sudden conviction was coming from, but it seemed to comfort her. And Draco knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that it was the truth. He would argue and fight on her behalf, and if she was forced to leave, he would not stay either. He'd follow her. She was by far the brightest spot that this place had to offer for him. She looked at him with wide eyes suddenly, as though coming out of a trance. She backed a step away from him quickly. Sorry for forgetting myself, Malfoy." He worked hard to cover up the look of surprised hurt on his face at her sudden reversal back to surnames. "It's all right, Granger." He turned swiftly away from her to regain his easy manner before he spoke again. "So, put that rubbish out of your mind and let's focus, shall we? Let's get dressed and go find some decent breakfast. We've got a cat to adopt today." 10 minutes later they set off for Sow Your Wildest Oats, for their first, last, and only taste of banana oatmeal. "This is truly vile, Hermione. I'm not sure if I can finish this," Draco whispered to her, gesturing to the oversized bowl of mushy, greyish slop. "Salazar's knob, what I wouldn't give to perform a vanishing charm on this shirt right here."
"I would love a donut instead right now," Hermione whispered back mournfully. "Do you think he'll notice if we just throw it away?"
Draco looked up to catch Jean Wilder's eyes trained on them, staring shrewdly at their still full bowls. "Dobby." A chime, and the elf appeared. "How can I help you?" Dobby Thing asked. Be a good lad, and stand right here, will you?" Draco pulled at his little arm, positioning him so that he blocked Wilder's view of their table. "Can you tell me, is there a donut shop here in the good place? And can you send this oatmeal shirt far, far away into some far-flung corner of the universe and never let it come back.
Yes, Draco Malfoy. 2 blocks west you can find a donut shop and miniature golf hut called Put It In Your Hole that serves a delightful range of banana-infused donuts.
Dobby waved his hand, and the oatmeal blessedly disappeared with a chime.
Anything else I can help with?
No, thank you, Dobby, Hermione said. The elf disappeared, and she turned to Draco. What are the chances that Put It In Your Hole becomes a vastly different experience after dark? I know one way to find out, if you're game, Draco replied cheekily. He looked up at Wilder and called out to the man. Jean, it was delicious. Thank you so much. We'll be back.
When?
The wild-haired man asked sternly from the counter. The 5th of Never, Hermione mumbled quietly to Draco, who struggled not to laugh as they made their escape. The sign for the mini golf donut shop was predictably suggestive. It involved an animatronic, 3-dimensional smiling banana wearing a golf shirt, sunglasses, and a Tam O'Shanter hat. The opposite end of the banana was being inserted, over and over again, into a frosted donut, who wore nothing but a surprised expression. They stood, taking in this abomination for several seconds. I'm not sure that's how you infuse a donut with banana, Draco said slowly. It was Hermione's turn for cheek. I don't know. That donut does look properly infused, and I think it's enjoying itself. They found Richard Pryor serving up donuts from behind one side of the counter, whilst simultaneously running the mini golf hut on the other side. Behind him, Good Place residents swung clubs haphazardly all over the brightly painted course. Whilst they were making their selections, there was a crashing, splintering sound from the course. Pryor gritted his teeth. These stupid forking assholes keep breaking the gym-jammed windmill. I've told them 1,000 times, do not hit the ball so forking hard, but does anyone listen? No, Draco said gravely, shaking his head in commiseration at Pryor's predicament. They took their donuts to go, and were pleased to find that, despite their incredible sweetness, they were a vast improvement over the oatmeal. Within a matter of a few blocks' walk, they came upon the place they'd been looking for. Banana's foster home was a casual cafe that served Banana's foster, of course. Additionally, residents of the Good Place could adopt an animal to keep in their homes, or even just foster one for a few hours or a few days. Unlike an animal shelter on Earth, however, these animals were not limited to the mundane pets one might expect. There were the typical, ordinary house cats, parakeets, or adorable puppies, to be sure. However, there were no shortage of exotic, or even extinct pets, such as Bengal tigers, flamingos, crocodiles, and a woolly mammoth. I'm not sure our garden is large enough, Harlow, Draco drawled, as she petted the woolly mammoth in awe. She laughed in agreement, and moved on to the feline section, oohing and eyeing over the adorable tabbies and calico cats and kittens. Goodness, look at these, Draco, she exclaimed, stopping at a doorway to a large room housing all manner of exotic cats. A cheetah! And do you see that beautiful jaguar? Draco looked uneasily at the large animals, whose jewel-bright eyes followed his every movement keenly, as if they were waiting to pounce the moment his demeanour relaxed. He looked at Jean Wilder, who was showing them around the animal sanctuary, now that his breakfast rush at the Bananas Foster side of the shop was finished. No offence meant, Wilder, but how in the bloody hell does one keep a lynx as a pet? The man waved a hand dismissively, as if to say Draco's concerns were nonsense. It's quite simple. The large cats simply act like the smaller ones. They might occasionally take a nip out of you, but because the Good Place doesn't allow serious injuries, The skin simply heals itself in a matter of hours. It's all in good fun to the cats, anyway." This sounded like anything but good fun to Draco, but he could tell that Hermione was intrigued. She sat cross-legged on the floor of the large cat room, cuddling a black and white speckled fur ball that was about the size of a beagle. "Mr. Wilder, this darling snow leopard is beautiful, but I'm worried that as it gets bigger, it might be more difficult to hold like this, yes?" Wilder considered, then answered, "It shouldn't be a problem for the good place to adjust the parameters on that specific snow leopard to keep it that size." Draco's heart sank, visualizing the number of small, tooth-shaped holes on his hands and arms in the near future. "That's wonderful! What is this snow leopard's name?" she asked, already making googly eyes at the beast. "Well, his name is Jim, but most people call him Jim," Wilder answered. Draco simply stared at the man. For a moment there, Wilder had seemed almost normal, and Draco had nearly forgotten who he was talking to. "Okay," Hermione answered, puzzled. "Anything specific we should know before we take Jim home? Does he need a specific diet or exercise?" Wilder shook his head. "Don't feed him." Draco tamped down his alarm, ignoring the pixies, who were bringing up several misgivings in his head. "What kind of things does Jim like to do?" Wilder fixed him with a steady gaze. "I don't know. Play chess. Screw." Hermione froze, and Draco's mouth fell open slightly. After a moment, she was the first to regain the ability of speech. "Well, I suppose we'll play chess. Jim understands the concept, then." Draco turned to look at her, agog. The witch had the audacity to wink at him. Wilder went on. "Oh, yes, remarkable creatures, large cats. Incredibly intelligent. Jim can play chess, read books, anything that you and I can do." Draco swallowed hard, unsure if Wilder was just taking the piss. "Right, then. I suppose we'll take this Jim, the snow leopard," he said uncertainly, confirming with Hermione, who nodded vigorously. Bright red harness affixed to a red lead firmly in Hermione's hand, the three of them set off for the gingerbread house, which Draco was oddly starting to think of as home. He and Hermione made easy conversation on the way, discussing the fun quirks of the good place and watching Jim explore the world outside of the Bananas Foster home. Both of them licked their waffle cones of vanilla ice cream topped with Bananas Foster for lunch. As they walked, Draco glanced over his shoulder, confused to see an older man behind them at a far distance, trying very hard not to be noticed by them. Draco had seen him outside of Put It in Your Hole and Bananas Foster home as well. "Hermione, I don't mean to alarm you, but the man watching us at the lake yesterday, do you recall what he looked like?" She wiped a bit of rum syrup from the corners of her mouth with her finger, licking it off. "Yes, he was a heavy-set, older man with grey hair and a trim beard, tortoise-shell glasses, rather tall." Draco nodded, wiping his own mouth with his napkin. "Look behind us in just a moment. Perhaps drop your napkin and turn around to pick it up. There's a man over in front of that red building. Is that him?" A few moments later, she gasped as she turned back, dropped napkin back in hand. "Yes, that's him! Who do you think he is? Why is he watching us? Is he following us? Do you know him?" "No. Come on." Draco took her by the waist and drew her closer, catching her sudden gasp of surprise. "Let's get moving. Maybe we can lose him." They wound and twisted their way through the small town square, turning at intervals to find new and varied places they'd never seen before. They seemed to be in a shopping district now. Bananarama contained a wide variety of vintage clothing from all eras. Banana Nana was full of crocheted doilies, hurricane lamps, hard sweets, and the scratchy woolen jumpers knitted by grandmothers worldwide. Banana Morgana featured replica swords, ceramic dragon statues, crystal balls, and over-the-top fantastical costumes that a sign proclaimed to be perfect for a live-action role-playing game. Hermione bit her lip. Should we go into one of these shops and try to lose him? Draco eyed the nearest shop doubtfully. It was full of flags and memorabilia of every nation, of all sizes and uses. The sign over the door read, Banana Republic. He had zero desire to go in. Besides, ultimately it did no good to run away. The man was one of 100 people here. The chances of avoiding him forever were very slim. No, he answered. I say we confront him. Figure out what he wants. Hermione looked suitably impressed with his display of bravado. All right, she said. She looked around critically, taking in the situation, and then related her plan to him. You walk over to the shop nearest him. Stand at the other window and look in like you're interested in something. I'm going to walk back as though I've forgotten something. Let's see who he stays with. The one of us that he doesn't follow follows him. It was Draco's turn to be impressed. To his astonishment, he felt Hermione slip her hand inside of his. Ready? After a moment, he nodded. She squeezed his hand and let go, loudly exclaiming about forgetting something back at the Bananas foster home. She turned back, stepping quickly down the pavement with Jim, whilst Draco crossed the street to a shop called Hannah Banana to window gaze. To his befuddlement, the shop appeared to carry personalized miniature license plates, mugs, keychains, and clothing, but only for people named Hannah. The man, dressed in a charcoal grey jacket and matching trousers, with a vest and Oxford shirt underneath, stood in indecision for a moment, before ultimately deciding to stay with Draco. The older man seemed to study the Hannah Banana shop sign, his own fingernails, his reflection in the shop's windows, anything to avoid appearing as though he was looking at Draco, only a handful of steps away. At one point, whilst the man was staring at the sky, Draco approached him swiftly, hoping to catch him off guard. "Why are you following us?" he asked roughly, grabbing the man's arm above the elbow. "Fuck!" The man's blue eyes widened in surprise. "Draco, calm down. I'm just trying to figure out how and why you and Granger are just getting here, when you've both been gone for so long. And also why she's being called by a different name, is all." Draco staggered backwards, dropping the man's arm. Hermione, approaching the two of them from behind, had caught the entire exchange. He and Hermione looked at each other, her copper eyes reflecting back the confusion they found in his silver ones. "Who are you?" Hermione asked from behind the two men. The older gentleman turned swiftly and smirked at her, then looked back at Draco. "She may not know me, but I'm surprised at you, mate. Salazar's bollocks, Drake, with all of the crazy shit that you and I got up to at Hogwarts. Do you, or do you not remember that night on board the Durmstrang ship at the Black Lake? Or that crazy night that you and I snuck off to Hogsmeade and got shirt-faced at the Hog's Head, when we were supposed to be doing prefect rounds?" Draco's gut felt as though he'd been punched, hard. He stared into the jewel-toned eyes, so blue they almost appeared violet. Then he choked out a name. Pansy.
Thank you for listening to Everything is Fine by Great78. If you enjoyed this story and would like to read more like it, please find me on Archive of Our Own or follow my Spotify channel, Silver and Copper.